There's something magical about those Japanese motorcycles from the 1950s. They weren't flashy, they weren't over-engineered, and yet they were built to last. These were machines forged in the ashes of post-war Japan, created with one goal in mind: unshakable reliability. They weren't about top speed or shiny chrome, they were about starting every morning, carrying you mile after mile and never letting you down. Many of these bikes are still roaring today, more than 70 years later, a living testament to the genius of Japanese engineering. Let's dive into 12 legends that refuse to die. Starting at number 12, the Meguro T1 Senior. Before Kawasaki became a household name in motorcycling, there was Meguro, and the T1 Senior was one of the bikes that set Japan's reputation for reliability in stone. Built between 1955 and 1959, the T1 Senior was Japan's proud response to the British dominance of the era. Modeled closely after the BSA-A7, it was a parallel twin around 500cc, and it had the kind of endurance that made riders realize Japan wasn't just making scooters anymore. They could build big, serious machines. Now let's talk about why this ride is worth it. Back in the late 50s, this was a serious investment, but today collectors know exactly what they've got when they see a T1 Senior. A rough, unrestored example can start around $5,000, but a clean, running machine? Expect $15,000 to $20,000 easy. These bikes are rare, and owning one means holding a bridge between Japan's humble commuter bikes and the Kawasaki behemoths that would follow. And speed? For its era, this motorcycle could hit around 90 miles per hour, which was plenty fast in the 50s, especially for a Japanese-built machine. More importantly, it could hold that speed without shaking itself apart, which was a common problem for many competitors back then. The Meguro T1 Senior wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. It told the world Japan wasn't here to play small ball. They were here to build legends. And speaking of legends, the next bike on this list brought a totally different flavor: smaller, stylish, and built for the everyday rider. Revving into number 11, Suzuki Colleda CO. While Meguro was building its heavyweight T1 Senior, Suzuki was carving out its place with something a little different. The Colleda CO, a beautifully simple and endlessly reliable machine. Produced from 1954 to 1959, the Colleda came in versions ranging from 90cc to 125cc, making it a perfect commuter bike for the rebuilding Japanese society of the 50s. And here's the best part: the Colleda wasn't boring. For a small bike, it had style. It looked like a scaled-down version of the big European motorcycles, with proper bodywork, clean lines, and a dependable sound that gave riders confidence. It became one of Suzuki's first true commercial success, and without it, there might not have been the later giants like the GS series or the Hayabusa. As for speed, you weren't setting land records, but hitting around 55 to 60 miles per hour on a little machine like this felt exhilarating. More importantly, you could cruise at that speed without worrying the engine would give up. Here's the deal you'll want to hear. Back in the day, this bike was affordable transportation for working-class Japan. Fast forward to today, and collectors who appreciate vintage Japanese iron will gladly pay $3,000 to $6,000 for a solid Colleda CO. A fully restored beauty, you might see prices reach $10,000, especially outside Japan, where these are rare finds. The Suzuki Colleda CO proved that small bikes could be both stylish and bulletproof. It was the beginning of Suzuki's rise as a reliability powerhouse. And now we're going to look at another machine that wasn't just reliable, it was revolutionary, kicking off Yamaha's entire motorcycle journey. Coming at number 10, Suzuki Diamond Free. This is the little jewel that helped Suzuki win the hearts of everyday riders. The Diamond Free was simple, light, and unbelievably tough, built for a nation rebuilding itself and needing machines that start today, run tomorrow, and keep going next year. We are talking a tidy 60cc two-stroke that felt feather-light, sipped fuel like a polite guest, and delivered enough pep to make city streets feel alive. No fuss, no drama, just reliable transport that turned into a cult classic. Talking about speed, on flat ground, the Diamond Free would buzz happily at around 30 to 35 miles per hour. In real life, that meant you kept pace with 50's traffic, darted through tight streets, and smiled the whole way home. The engine note had that cheerful two-stroke zing that makes even a grocery run feel like a quick escape. Now the money. For an honest survivor, you are usually looking at $3,000 to $6,000, depending on completeness and paperwork. A carefully restored, museum-ready example, the kind of piece that feels new today, often lists between $8,000 and $12,000. Truly exceptional show-quality bikes can push $15,000 when the right collector is watching. Rare colorways and strong provenance tilt the scale upward. Bottom line, the Diamond Free is small, beautiful, and built to last. It is the kind of vintage that starts every weekend and never ruins your mood. And if you think this little diamond is charming, wait until you see the even earlier Suzuki that kicked the door open with bicycle simplicity and genius engineering. Are you enjoying the video? If you are, click on the like button and subscribe to our channel. You'll not regret it. At number 9, Suzuki Power Free. Before Suzuki nailed the Diamond Free, they introduced the Power Free, a clever, ultra-simple machine that blurred the line between bicycle and motorcycle in the smartest possible way. Picture a compact 36cc engine mounted to a lightweight frame you could pedal if you wanted, with a dual freewheel system that let you choose how you moved. Pedal only, engine only, or a team effort of both. It was affordable, practical, and hard to break. This is the seed from which decades of Suzuki reliability grew. Owners loved how liberating it felt. No parking stress, no fuel anxiety, no complicated maintenance. You filled the tank with a little premix, gave it a friendly kick, and the city opened up. The Power Free handled daily life with a cheerful attitude that modern riders still admire. It was transportation first, fun always. Streets, alleys, campus paths, market runs, it just did the job. As for speed, the Power Free was not trying to win trophies. It happily cruised around 20 to 25 miles per hour, which was perfect for post-war streets. The fun was in the choice. Tired legs after a long day, you let the engine carry you home. Want a tiny workout on a gentle hill, you add a few pedals and smile. That flexibility made it feel smarter than the competition. Time for prices. Clean, mostly complete survivors typically change hands for $2,000 to $5,000. Nicely restored examples that feel essentially new today often list around $7,000 to $10,000. Exceptional, show-ready bikes with documents and period accessories can nudge $12,000. Availability outside Japan is limited, so the right buyer can push numbers higher. The Power Free is a masterclass in simple engineering that works. It showed the world that Suzuki could build machines for real people with real lives at real prices. And we moved from micro-mobility to the birth of a legendary brand debut, a little red machine that lit the fuse for an entire empire. Number 8. Yamaha YA1. If there is one bike that can be called the true beginning of Yamaha motorcycles, it is the YA1, nicknamed the Red Dragonfly. Built between 1955 and 1957, this was Yamaha's very first motorcycle, and it absolutely shocked the world with its quality. Instead of rushing into the market, Yamaha studied, refined, and then launched a 125cc two-stroke that was so reliable, so precise, that it instantly gave Yamaha a reputation for perfection and speed. For a small two-stroke, this thing could easily reach 50 to 55 miles per hour, and it felt fast. Now let's talk money. The YA1 is extremely rare today. A project bike or unrestored example might cost $10,000 to $15,000, but a clean, running, museum-grade YA1 can command $25,000 to $35,000 at auctions. That is the kind of respect collectors give this firstborn Yamaha. The YA1 wasn't just reliable, it was symbolic. It told the world that Yamaha wasn't here to experiment, they were here to lead. And just when the world thought Yamaha had nailed it, they followed up with a refined machine that carried the same spirit, but added even more comfort and resilience. Making waves at number 7, Honda Dream C75. By the late 50s, Honda had already shocked the world with their early commuter machines, but the Dream C75 was different. This was a motorcycle with real size, real power, and the kind of presence that made people look twice. Launched in 1957, the C75 carried a 305cc parallel twin 4-stroke engine, and it showed the world that Honda wasn't just about lightweight utility bikes. They could build machines to rival Europe and America. As for speed, the Dream C75 could hit around 85 miles per hour, which was more than enough for the era. Riders described it as calm at speed, not frantic, not rattling, a bike you could actually tour with. That was rare in the late 50s for a Japanese brand. Let's talk about getting you on this bike today. Back then, the C75 was a major purchase, but today collectors understand how historic it is. A decent, unrestored C75 might bring around $8,000 to $12,000. A fully restored or museum-quality example? Expect to see prices climb into the $15,000 to $20,000 range. Not cheap, but you're buying a piece of Honda history. The Honda Dream C75 was about ambition. It was Honda's way of saying, we're not just making small bikes, we're here to compete with the best. And just when riders thought Honda had peaked, they released another version of the Dream that changed everything with one simple feature. Number 6. Honda Dream C71. If the C75 proved Honda could build bigger motorcycles, the Dream C71 proved they could build smarter ones. Released in 1957, the C71 carried a 250cc four-stroke twin, and here's what made it special. It was the very first Honda motorcycle to feature an electric starter. At a time when most bikes demanded a tough kick to bring them to life, the C71 asked you to simply push a button. That was revolutionary in the 50s. As for speed, the C71 could comfortably reach 75 miles per hour with smooth delivery and excellent endurance. Riders trusted it not just as a commuter, but as a light tourer. It was proof that a Japanese motorcycle could be practical, reliable, and innovative all at once. Now for prices. Because of its historical importance, the C71 is valued highly. A rough but restorable bike may start at $6,000 to $9,000, while clean, restored examples often sit in the $12,000 to $18,000 range. Exceptional, collector-level C71s have been known to top $20,000. The Honda Dream C71 wasn't just reliable, it was convenient, it was modern, and it put Honda years ahead of the competition. And as the 50s rolled on, Honda decided to go even bigger with a 250cc twin that would become one of the smoothest, most dependable long-distance machines of the entire decade. Coming strong at number 5, the Honda Dream C70. Before the C71's electric starter, and before the larger C75, there was the Honda Dream C70. Produced between 1956 and 1958, this motorcycle cemented Honda's reputation as a reliability king. With its 250cc parallel, twin four-stroke, the C70 delivered smoothness and power that felt far ahead of its time. It wasn't just another commuter bike, it was a motorcycle you could take on the open road. The C70 looked stunning. It carried the classic Dream styling, enclosed bodywork, clean lines, and that unmistakable Honda finish. Riders described it as a machine that made you feel proud. You weren't just on a cheap commuter, you were on a Honda Dream. Let's talk about speed. The C70 could run at around 75 to 80 miles per hour, which was huge in the mid-50s for a Japanese machine. It was stable, it was dependable, and it gave riders confidence that they could actually cover serious distances without worrying about breakdowns. And then there's the value. A survivor in decent shape today can fetch $7,000 to $10,000, while fully restored, show-quality C70s often climb into the $15,000 to $20,000 range. Collectors love this bike because it's not just another Honda. It's one of the machines that made the world realize Japanese motorcycles were built to last. The C70 was reliability wrapped in style. It showed the world that Japan wasn't just catching up, they were leading the way. And next, Honda's ambition pushed them into an even earlier, smaller machine that carried a name meaning convenient, and built its legend by being the commuter bike that never quit. Number 4. Honda Bentley J-Type. If one motorcycle showed the world that Honda could build a machine that worked every single day without drama, it was the Bentley J-Type. Released in 1953, this little bike earned a name that literally meant convenient in Japanese. And that is exactly what it was. Light, reliable, affordable, and absolutely ready for the daily grind. As for speed, the Bentley J-Type was no rocket, but it would happily cruise around 40 to 45 miles per hour. For a compact commuter in the early 50s, that was more than enough. More importantly, it could keep that pace without breaking down, which was not something many European competitors could promise at the same price. Now let's get into what it costs. Because it was one of Honda's first truly successful models, collectors chase the J-Type hard today. A decent survivor can cost $6,000 to $8,000, while a restored, clean example can easily push $10,000 to $15,000. Rare, pristine examples with documented history may reach $20,000. The Bentley J-Type was the bike that built trust. Without it, Honda wouldn't have had the reputation to build bigger dreams later in the decade. And speaking of dreams, the next machine was the one that started it all. Honda's very first motorcycle, nicknamed for the bold dream that Soichiro Honda carried in his heart. Now we're going into the top 3 of the 50s. These bikes were monsters back in the day and are still hot today. Some of them you've never even heard of before. Earning its place at number 3, the Honda Dream D-Type. Here it is, the motorcycle that started Honda's journey into two wheels. The legendary Dream D-Type, built from 1949 to 1951, was Honda's first full-fledged motorcycle. Before this, Honda had only made motorized bicycles, but the D-Type was different. It was the dream realized, and it became the foundation for everything that followed. The D-Type carried a 98cc two-stroke engine, built with simple, rugged parts that could be repaired easily. Riders in the early 50s were shocked at how dependable it was. At a time when many motorcycles felt fragile and temperamental, the D-Type would start, run, and keep running. That is why people called it the Dream, because for a generation in post-war Japan, owning a motorcycle that didn't break down was a dream come true. What made the D-Type truly special wasn't raw power, it was reliability. Riders trusted it for work, for travel, for everything. The styling was modest, with a pressed steel frame and a simple seat, but it had an honesty about it. When you bought a D-Type, you knew exactly what you were getting, a motorcycle that delivered every single day. As for speed, the Dream D-Type could manage around 40 to 45 miles per hour, which was more than enough for the narrow, crowded roads of the early 50s. And it did it with a smoothness and ease that made people believe in Honda as a serious manufacturer. Let's talk value. Today, because it was Honda's first real motorcycle, the D-Type is incredibly rare. A project or incomplete example may still cost around $15,000, while restored, running models can bring $25,000 to $35,000 at auction. Museum quality, historically documented D-Types, those can exceed $50,000 because you are not just buying a motorcycle, you are buying the very start of Honda. The Dream D-Type wasn't just reliable, it was a message. It was Soichiro Honda standing up and saying, "We're here. We will build bikes that last." And with that, we're going into the top 3. Which bikes do you think deserve to be here from the 50s? If you're still here with us, like and subscribe to our channel. There are many more fantastic videos like this coming your way. Going at number 2, Rikuo RQ750. Here it is, the forgotten giant of Japan's motorcycle history, the Rikuo RQ750. If you've never heard of it, don't worry, most people haven't. But this bike was a legend on the streets of post-war Japan. Built under license from Harley-Davidson, the RQ750 was essentially a Japanese Harley, a side-valve V-twin that looked, sounded, and rode like the American machines that inspired it. The story is wild. Back in the 1930s, Rikuo got rights to build Harley models in Japan. Production was interrupted by the war, but when factories came back online in the 50s, the RQ750 rolled out as one of the heaviest and toughest motorcycles you could buy in Japan. With its massive 750cc side-valve V-twin, it wasn't fast by modern standards, topping out around 70 miles per hour, but it was built like a tank. This was not a commuter bike. This was the machine of police, military, and serious riders who wanted something solid. It weighed over 500 pounds, had a hand-shift foot clutch just like old Harleys, and gave riders the feeling of America on Japanese soil. In fact, many people who rode one said it felt more Harley than Harley. Today, Rikuo motorcycles are extremely rare. A barn find RQ750 might fetch $15,000 to $20,000, while restored examples can climb well above $30,000. Collectors chase them not just for the machine itself, but because it represents a strange, forgotten chapter, the time when Japan built American motorcycles under its own badge. The Rikuo RQ750 is a bike that feels like a parallel universe. Without it, Japan's motorcycle story would look very different. And speaking of roots, while Meguro was laying down the four-stroke foundation, another Japanese giant, our number 1 was busy building a dream machine that would capture the imagination of an entire generation. Our ultimate pick. Number 1, the Marusho Lilac ML. If you want to talk about true hidden gems of Japan's motorcycle past, you have to end with the Marusho Lilac ML. This machine didn't come from Honda, Yamaha, or Kawasaki. It came from a much smaller company with a huge ambition. Founded by Masashi Ito, a former engineer from Honda, Marusho wanted to prove that Japanese bikes could stand toe-to-toe with the best of Europe. And the Lilac ML was their first bold step in that direction. The name Lilac wasn't just pretty branding, it symbolized elegance and aspiration. Riders who owned one described it as riding a bike that felt ahead of its time, smooth and balanced on the road. But because Marusho was such a small company, they simply couldn't compete with the massive production power of Honda or Yamaha. That meant fewer bikes were made, fewer survived, and today the Lilac ML stands as one of the rarest post-war Japanese motorcycles ever built. Collectors today absolutely treasure these machines. A restored Lilac ML can fetch anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000, depending on condition and originality. Even rough, unrestored examples can still bring in $6,000 to $8,000 because they almost never show up on the market. For many enthusiasts, owning a Lilac is like owning a piece of what could have been, a vision of an alternate Japanese motorcycle industry where the little guy went toe-to-toe with the giants. And that's what makes the Marusho Lilac ML the perfect way to end this list. It's not just a bike, it's a reminder that history isn't only written by the winners. Sometimes the underdogs leave behind the most fascinating stories of all. And there you have it, 10 forgotten Japanese motorcycles from the 1950s that prove the roots of today's biking culture run deeper than most people realize. If you enjoyed this trip back in time, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another hidden gem. And if you're still hungry for more bikes, go ahead and click on the next video right here. Trust me, you'll love it.